Hello, I'm Robert, a voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is for my 1960s level detailed Ukraine news, November 19th to 20th. And just a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, this Russian spy ship, the Yantar. Now, they made a big fuss about it on the news, but it's a nothing burger, really. This on the BBC News, so it's because it's approached UK waters. It's probably much less news anywhere else. But this spy ship is frequently in UK waters. It's 1, 2, 3 times a year. You'll hear the news if you follow the geeky news stories. So that's not unusual at all. And then there's this thing about, they say, fired laser at the pilots. This does not mean it's a kind of laser weapon. It's like your laser pointer. You're not supposed to point that at someone's eyes. So it's laser light that can dazzle the pilot's eyes and dazzle their vision. And if I mean, it would be extremely unlikely to happen because the pilot is traveling so fast. But the laser light could also be damaging for their eyes. But it's mainly just that they see a bright light, they get dazzled, and that could be a bit unsafe. But remember the fighter jets, they've got lots of automatic systems to protect themselves. So it's not really the severe risk that they make it out to be. And then the UK talks about how to have a decisive response. What they mean by that is that they send one of their subs to surface in the sea next to the spy ship. And when they do that, then the spy ship would then sail away. And that's what they mean by decisive response. So there's nothing there to be worried about. So now I wanted to talk now about the US proposing a new peace plan. And sadly, this seems at present, but we don't know. It might be that they actually have got something genuine from Russia. But if the Reuters leak is correct, then this is really not going to get us anywhere. But at least they're trying, even if they're not necessarily succeeding. So I say it says here the mood inside the White House is bullish and seems the plan will be presented to Zelensky as a fait accompli. But what it seems like is that the Trump administration believe that because Zelensky of this corruption scandal, they will be able to force Zelensky to give away cities. They can't. There's not something that's within Zelensky's power. So Reuters is saying that Ukraine's going to have to make territorial concessions. They never seem to kind of think about this. So I've given this example, and I've got a longer video about it. Suppose that Keir Starmer wanted, for some reason, to give Blackpool to the Republic of Ireland. He can't do that. It's not in his power. Suppose that Trump wanted to give a single field in the United States to Canada, just one field, just 1 acre. And suppose that for some reason, it's of great importance, sort of symbolically, to Canada, and Canada offers to pay $100 billion into into the US coffers to have this 1 acre. Even if it's as asymmetrical as that, Trump can't do it. He just hasn't got the authority to do that. Well, it's exactly the same with Zelensky. He hasn't got the authority. And nobody, in case of Trump, the Congress can't do it. Suppose that all the legislators wanted to sell this field for $100 billion to Canada, 1 acre, and it's a great bargain. But the farmer the field is part of the United States. The Congress can't do that either. The only people that could do that would be all the states working together it'd be a constitutional thing they'd have to do. There just isn't any way to do it. So it's very much the same thing with Ukraine. There's no way that for Zelensky to do this. It requires a referendum for according to the Ukrainian constitution, any territorial changes can only be done by a referendum of the whole of Ukraine. And then according to the Ukrainian constitution, a referendum can't be held during martial law. And when you've got soldiers fighting, you have martial law. So for as long as the war continues, it's utterly impossible for Ukraine to have this referendum. So, and then it's also very clear in this, from what Putin is asking, he wants Kramatorsk. There's no way that the Ukrainian people are going to decide by majority to let Russia have Kramatorsk. So it can't happen anyway. It's not Zelensky's choice. It's the choice of the Ukrainian people, and they're never going to make that choice. So this is an impossible thing, and this has gone round. I think it's about the fourth time that this has happened, if this is what's in the peace treaty this time. It's just Trump goes to Putin. Putin says, look, I'm being very reasonable here. Just go and ask Zelensky to give me this city, and then I'm willing to stop. And then Trump, for some reason, doesn't see any problem with that. So he then goes to Zelensky and says, look, we've made this arrangement with Putin. He's willing to stop as long as you give him the city. And then Zelensky says to Trump, I can't do that. And then Trump says, you've got to do it. It's the only way forward. Zelensky says, I can't do that. And then Zelensky heads off to Washington, D.C., or he heads off to the White House. And then Keir Starmer goes to the White House, Macron goes to the White House, Merz goes to the White House. They all go there and they all talk to Trump. And eventually Trump agrees that Zelensky can't do that. Then, a few days or weeks later, Trump then goes back to Putin and says he can't do that. And then discussions break off. And then a little bit later, Putin comes back, he talks to Trump. Trump's forgotten all this. And Putin says, I'm being very reasonable. All you've got to do is to tell Zelensky to give me the city. And the whole cycle starts again. And this is the fourth time, if that's indeed what they're asking of Zelensky. And it doesn't matter any leverage. They haven't got any leverage on him because of corruption, because he's fighting corruption. He's not corrupt himself. But it doesn't matter what leverage they might think they have. There's nobody in Ukraine who's got this ability. Just like Trump can't give a field to Canada, Zelensky can't give a city to Russia. That's all there is to it. So we just have to see what happens. Just go round this cycle, but maybe at some point, you go round and round the same cycle over and over again, but then gradually things are a little bit different each time around. And this time around, Trump is very much more in support of Ukraine than he was before. For instance, Trump has permitted the use of the ATACMS into Russia again. That was a few days ago, and he would never have done that earlier in the year. And he's shifted a lot in his support of Ukraine, and Trump has done these very severe sanctions. He's sanctioned the two biggest oil companies in Russia, and they turn out to be very effective. Lukoil particularly has had to, and I think the other one too, they've had to just sell off lots of their foreign oil refineries. Either that or other countries are just taking them from them, forcefully buying them from them. And so the Russian oil sales to India and China, they just gone down, and Russia's at its lowest revenue from oil already in 2.5 years, and it's likely to keep on going down for at least a while, and Russia don't seem to have found a way around it. So now, if this continues like that, then eventually what's happening is that Russia's got huge domestic reserves. We all heard about the foreign reserves, which are frozen in Belgium. It's got huge domestic reserves too, but they're not inexhaustible. They can last some months. And as Putin is sitting there and he's no longer getting the money coming in from selling the oil, then you'll see his domestic reserves going down. And he'll start getting very uncomfortable there and saying, the other people around him will be saying, do you know what you're doing? I mean, look what's happening to our domestic reserves. What are we going to do when it hits zero? What are we going to do if we need that money for a rainy day, as it were? And so it's going right down to zero. And so at some point, Putin will likely decide that he's had enough, for whatever is the reason why he keeps pushing forward at twice the speed of a snail, that at some point he's going to decide, well, enough is enough, it's time to stop. And then that's when the war will end. Because everyone else is ready to stop long ago. Everyone else was ready to stop on day one. So this, although I don't think this particular peace treaty, if it is going to require territorial concessions from, if that is correctly reported, then we're just going around the circle again. But each time around it's a little bit different. And another news at the very same time is that the Senate, with Trump's approval, are preparing these very strong sanctions on China, India, secondary sanctions to stop the oil sales, and they're preparing to possibly pass them in the very near future. So Trump is certainly not taking Russia's side, but he's just got false ideas about what he thinks Ukraine can do, and it just doesn't make sense. That it's not possible for the United States to complete a ceasefire deal without Ukraine at the table. It just doesn't make sense. You always have to have the participants in the ceasefire at the table. It's a third country that doesn't know much about it, can't really do that. So that's really the news story. It's both of these. It's a minor positive for the ceasefire, that although it doesn't look as if the Trump administration really has got a grasp of what the situation is in Ukraine and what Zelensky can and can't do from the leaks, if the leak is correct, then it's simply they also asked if the Reuters leak is correct. They also say that Ukraine needs to reduce the size of its army and reduce its military capabilities. Given that Ukraine is only just holding back Russia as it is, and that Russia is slowly advancing, then to reduce its military capabilities is a complete no-go for them, because they need to be sure that Russia is not going to invade them again. So if they were to agree to what Trump has just said, then he's saying, give them one of your fortress cities, or maybe all the fortress belt, which gives them a huge advantage in Donbass. Reduce the size of your army, and do all this before the ceasefire. Well, Putin is just going to take those fortress cities and then keep advancing into Ukraine against the reduced size army, claiming that Ukraine violated the ceasefire, which he can easily do, and then just keep fighting. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. It's not a ceasefire proposal at all. It's just a surrender, or just make it easier for me to conquer you agreement. But whereas Zelensky is very, for the last year, he has put forward practical ideas about how to just completely cease fighting and then start negotiations, which involves person-to-person contact between Zelensky and Putin. So Ukraine no longer depends on, it's no longer being given anything by the United States. They're buying things from the United States. The United States is very willing to sell these things to Ukraine. It's got a lot of financial and military support from its allies in Europe. So it's evolved into a situation where the United States has got very little leverage over Ukraine. I mean, Trump could try to stop selling things to Ukraine, but he's not going to do that. He wants the money, and he also does support Ukraine to defend itself. So I think very little is going to happen if the leaks are correct, but it does suggest that they're just going around this circle again, and that hopefully that maybe this time, maybe the next time, that it'll actually become a ceasefire. It's also possible that Reuters misreported all this, And then if that's the case, then maybe it is a genuine ceasefire. But for sure, if you ever hear that a claim that this is a ceasefire agreement which requires Zelensky to surrender territory, then it's this word surrender territory, which just sounds like, why can't he just surrender some territory? Surely he can. He can't. It's just not possible. Now, what you can do is that there's going to be a line of contact between the two. If they have a ceasefire, they'll have to decide where the line of contact is. And it's lots of grey areas where the Russians intermingled with the Ukrainians. So the first thing they have to do is to withdraw back from the line of contact. They have to draw this line of contact. It might be a little bit arbitrary in places. We can say, well, look, let's draw it this way in that field, and that this way in that field. So it might be some things they do in the areas where they both are fighting, and they're kind of intermixed. Then, of course, he's got lots of decisions he can make, or his generals can make and so on, about where exactly the line goes. And then, normally, the way it happens after that is that it ends up with a demilitarized zone in between the two, like between North and South Korea. So, for instance, Pokrovsk would surely end up in a demilitarized zone, not in the Russian-controlled area, and probably not in the Ukrainian-controlled area, because it's currently disputed. So they would both withdraw from that. There would be a formal border somewhere along, for instance, might be along the railway line through Pokrovsk. If they did, that'd be a very likely place if you were stopping just now. And then they'd both withdraw 5 kilometers from that border, and then would be patrolled by drones, and there'd be international monitoring of it. So that sort of thing is possible. And that is within Zelensky's ability to do that as president. But what he can't do is to say, well, look, here's the city, Pokrovsk, and even if, I gave the example for even if the Trump was to offer Seattle in exchange for Montreal, say, he can't do that. If Zelensky was to offer Kramatorsk in exchange for Melitopol, and Melitopol is about the same population as Kramatorsk, and it's got similar strategic value for Ukraine, that would be a fair swap in military terms. But Zelensky can't do that. Only the Ukrainian people can do that. And the Ukrainian people would be very unlikely to vote for that too, because there are actually people living in Kramatorsk, even though they would very much like to return Melitopol to Ukraine. It'd be very difficult to agree to that, because there's equal number of people in Kramatorsk who want to stay in Ukraine as there are in Melitopol who want to leave it. And of course the people in Melitopol are now in occupied Russia, occupied Ukraine. So I think these territories, I think it's very unlikely that they actually do agree to anything more than a minor territorial swap, because of the need for a referendum to eventually agree to the ceasefire and to not agree to the ceasefire. Zelensky can do a ceasefire without a referendum, but if there's anything involving territory, that requires a referendum. So he can do quite a lot without a referendum, but with the government as well, they can agree to various things as well. They can do a peace treaty as well without a referendum, but they can't do a territorial swap without a referendum. So anyway, hopefully that helps to understand some of the background and what's going on here. And so I think it's a minor positive. It's not something to be worried about. The worst case is that they just go round the circle again. It's like a spiral, going up a spiral staircase or down a spiral staircase, up a spiral staircase to somewhere you want to get to. And each time around, there's a slightly different place. You've gone around the circle, but you've also moved up a bit. So I think that's basically what's happening with these ceasefire attempts, and that eventually it's going to get somewhere, but they're doing a rather roundabout way of getting there. So hopefully this war does end soonish. It's only going to end at some point.